our story isn't told in microcosm, but we needed to open it up into the world at large, and we needed to do that in such a way that for the next film you will understand why the playing field has been leveled.
But how do you spread the intelligence in the next film, though, without the gas? You know,
it's a good question. I mean, in the same way that I guess that Caesar inherits the genes of the mother, you know, for me, the next film should come a generation after this one. You know, if you look at
so an elderly Caesar.
Well,
not that elderly.
No,
actually,
I mean,
they live a long time. Right?
Apes reach adulthood in 8 years, 5 to 8 years. They have, you know, so the new generation could come 8 years from now,
right.
And Caesar would still be young. You know, they live to 55, sometimes 60, and so so the great thing is in a way you can have the next generation of apes that have grown up. You know, without giving too much away, but just the idea that within their Shangri-La that they find that paradise, you know, you can have the new generation evolve, and they've inherited the genes, and they've, you know, and they're the ones that are going into battle. They're the ones that are displaying real fear as young soldiers going into battle, and you know, think
against humans.
Yeah, think of Full Metal Jacket. You know, so that kind of urban environment where, you know, not dissimilar to how, you know, Western forces are going into Baghdad or something, and you've got U.S. soldiers billeted in Saddam Hussein's palace, and you know, coming across golden telephones in the same way that apes could be kind of being billeted in cities and understanding our species through what we've created, and television or cooking, and you know what I mean. There's so
Absolutely.
much we can do that would just be fantastic, and I think that means whilst this story plays out as a fairy tale, the next film would play out as a kind of Shakespearean, you know, sci-fi drama. Where you'd have Caesar as the leader of this revolution, but Koba would be, you know, he would be the kind of the one leading his own troop that's looking to wipe out humans in a genocide, and Caesar's more conflicted, and maybe Caesar needs Koba's assistance in terms of the conflict, and Maurice is his advisor and is telling him you need to basically combine forces and all of that sort of stuff.
And it goes at the conflict between Caesar and Koba, who doesn't like the
Exactly.
fact that Caesar, which does suggest some of the older film themes in the older films, but that's
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, totally.
That conflict, because that would be any military conflict. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he needs the allegiance between the two, although he doesn't believe in what Koba believes in, which is complete genocide. And so you know, there's so much to do.
Oh,
so
yeah.
much fun to be.
I would imagine language would play a more important role in the next one.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's again. I mean, apes have a very different voice. They don't have a voice box. They don't have an Adam's apple, but they have a voice box. Their larynx is set far lower down their throat. Hence the reason why they cannot speak. Now, through genetic enhancement, through whatever, you could elevate that. And actually,
plus, it's not a science documentary. But
well, exactly. But we actually had a scene.
Insane.
We had a scene which we cut. We had a scene where Caroline, the veterinarian, notices, you know,
that Caesar's
there's something different about his throat to a normal chimpanzee.
That's interesting.
But the trouble with that is then the audience is like, I know where that's.
Yeah, right.
You
He's
know,
going to speak.
Yeah,
right,
and so
right.
we had to be very careful, and we decided not to go with that. But I think, you know, in the next film you can have that. In the next film you can start to sort of see how they're taught to speak and how they evolve, and that'll be great.
Now, I don't have no idea what James's contract is, but do you see Will being a part of the next film, or?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is, you know, it's the ape's story in many ways. I mean, I think possibly in the sense that you know, that relationship is so strong between father and son, and yes, I mean it's always possible, I guess, but you know, you could also portray the human face through that of a resistance leader,
right.
or you know, that of a kind of a guy who's leading the sort of the pockets of human resistance against the apes, and whilst also trying to find a cure for the virus, and you know, maybe a little bit like 12 Monkeys, every human's gone underground in order to avoid the virus, and when they come up onto the surface they're wearing gas masks.
Right.
And in a way that's what sort of would dehumanize them, and that would make us then really follow the apes. And that's what, you know, interests me, is like this shouldn't be about apes as our enemy. This should be about the idea of a whole new civilization coming into being, and with the beauty of modern cinema, we as an audience have the opportunity to witness that.
But we as an audience, this was certainly true when I was growing up with those films, wanted the apes to win anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But they're a mirror of ourselves, and that's what makes this mythology so great. It's that kind of primal instinct in us to sort of kind of look at them and think, wow, do they have a soul? Do they, do they think like us? Do they? And if they do, what are they thinking? And so, this franchise, actually, this story tells us that, tells us how they are thinking.